I never used to dislike birthdays. Actually, I enjoyed them. I was the kind of man who'd spend weeks planning the perfect surprise, remembering every tiny detail she ever mentioned. For 5 years, I made sure Emily's birthday felt meaningful. From candlelit dinners to handwritten notes, from late-night drives to quiet Sunday mornings with her favorite pancakes. But this year, something inside me felt different. Not because I forgot. I remembered everything. The date, the dress she said she wanted, even the pasta place she loved. But somewhere between her late night, girls' night, and the way she smirked at her phone the next morning, something in me went numb. She walked out of the bedroom around noon, humming, her hair still damp from the shower. She looked beautiful, glowing even. "You're awfully quiet today," she said, leaning on the counter with that same playful tilt of her head she used whenever she wanted affection. "Just tired," I mumbled, staring into the coffee swirling in my cup. She frowned slightly, stepped closer, and rested a hand on my shoulder. "Hey, don't be grumpy today. It's my birthday." I glanced at her hand, the same one that had been texting him at 2:14 a.m. last night. I didn't answer. "Not yet." "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Happy birthday, Em." She smiled back, but her eyes scanned my face like she knew something was off. "You sure everything's all right?" I nodded, and for hours I pretended. We went to brunch like every other year. She talked about work, her friends, her plans. I barely spoke. I just watched her. The way she laughed too much, how she checked her phone whenever she thought I wasn't looking. Every few moments, she tried to pull me into the conversation, but all I could see was the message I'd seen. A notification on her phone when she went to the bathroom. A name I didn't recognize. "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you." I stared at that line for 10 full seconds before she returned and placed her phone face down on the nightstand. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Good night, babe." That was the moment something inside me snapped. At dinner, she wore the red dress I bought her last year. The one she once called her lucky dress. I used to love how she looked in it, but now all I could see was how easily she could lie in it. Halfway through the meal, she laughed and touched my hand. "You've barely said anything all day. Why so quiet?" I put my fork down, met her eyes, and said calmly, "Because you were with him last night." Her smile vanished. The color drained from her face. What are you even talking about?" "I saw the message, Emily." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The silence spoke for me. She blinked quickly, her lips parting, breath uneven. It wasn't, don't," I said softly. "You don't have to pretend anymore." The room around us faded. Voices turned into a distant blur. She reached for my hand, but I pulled mine away. For the first time, I didn't see the woman I loved. I saw someone I used to love, someone who had already left long before I realized it. "I didn't mean for you to find out like that," she whispered, eyes glossy. I nodded. "You didn't want me to find out at all." And that was the truth, wasn't it? She would have kept pretending, kept laughing, kept saying she was out with friends. I leaned back, letting out a slow breath. "You want to know why I'm quiet?" I said. "Because every word I speak to you now feels fake." She looked like she wanted to explain, to fix it, to somehow undo everything. But there was nothing left to fix. The damage wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was silent, deep, and permanent. I signaled the waiter for the check. "Lucas, please." I stood, left enough cash to cover the bill, and looked at her one last time. "Happy birthday, Emily." Then I walked out into the cool night air, the kind that usually makes you feel alive. But that night, it just made me feel hollow. The city lights blurred across the wet streets. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't hurry back home. Home didn't feel like home anymore. I sat in my car for a while, engine off, staring at the streetlights flickering across the windshield. My hands shook slightly, not from anger, but from the quiet realization that I was finally done pretending. Her betrayal wasn't just one night with someone else. It was every little thing that led to it. The time she turned away, the late nights at work, the way she stopped asking about my day. She had been leaving me in small increments long before the final act. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I didn't answer. Then a message appeared. Lucas, please, can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment, then locked the phone and started driving. Back at the apartment, everything seemed unchanged. Her shoes by the door, her perfume lingering, the half-empty wine glass on the counter from last night. But something fundamental had shifted. I no longer belonged there. I opened the closet and began packing. Not in haste, not in anger, just methodically, one shirt after another, each fold a small act of reclaiming myself. At the bottom drawer, I found the birthday card I'd written her last week. To my favorite person in the world, it began. I read it, let out a humorless laugh, then tore it clean in half. An hour later, she appeared. Her eyes red, makeup smudged. You're really leaving? She asked softly. Yeah, I said quietly. I am. She stepped closer. It doesn't mean anything, Lucas. It was just one mistake. I was drunk, confused. Stop. My voice remained calm, but firm. It's not about him, Emily. It's about you. You chose to do it. You chose to lie. You don't get to call that confusion. Tears formed in her eyes. I didn't want to lose you. I looked at her, truly looked, and realized she meant it in her own warped way. She didn't want to lose the version of me who made her feel safe, adored, forgiven. The version who stayed quiet through everything. That version was already gone. You already did, I said softly. She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. You can keep the apartment, I added. I'll have my things moved out tomorrow. Lucas, please. Can't we try again? I shook my head. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. A long silence stretched between us. Not angry, just the echo of something that once was love. I picked up my bag, moved toward the door, and turned one last time. I hope he was worth the quiet, I said, then left. Outside, the air felt lighter. I didn't feel heroic or vengeful, just free. For years, I had mistaken endurance for love, silence for strength. Real strength, I realized, was leaving without needing to shout. The next morning, I woke in a small motel on the edge of town. I watched the sun rise through thin curtains, sipping stale coffee, and for the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for a message, an apology, or a sign. Just peace. Weeks passed. People asked questions, mutual friends, co-workers, even her sister. I kept my answers simple. It didn't work out. No bitterness, no gossip, just truth. One evening, scrolling through old photos, birthdays, trips, random smiles, I felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude for the lesson, for the strength I hadn't known I possessed, for the reminder that love shouldn't make you feel small. Her number still sat in my phone untouched. I considered deleting it, then didn't. It no longer had power over me. I stepped outside, wind brushing my face, the sky painted in quiet blues and golds. For once, I didn't feel the need to look back. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the sound of finally being free.